Okay, let's just get right into it. What if I told you that one of the biggest, most powerful ideas about what it means to be a man is actually built on a complete lie? Today, we're going to tear apart this modern myth of masculinity, and we'll start with a pretty simple question. All right, so on one hand, you've got Ted Bundy, right? Charismatic, confident, and, one of the most notorious serial killers ever. And on the other hand, you have Thomas Edison, kind of a simple, skinny inventor who, well, he literally brought light to the world. So here's the question for you. If you had to pick one, who is the real alpha male here? Did you hesitate? Maybe even pick Bundy? Well, if you did, you're not alone. And honestly, it's not your fault. Because for generations, society has been feeding all of us a very specific and, frankly, a very flawed idea of what masculinity is supposed to be. So let's start right there. Let's unpack that whole illusion. We're going to dive into the really powerful stereotypes that have somehow come to define what it means to be an alpha. I mean, the checklist, right? It's in like 1,000 movies. The muscular body, the deep voice. He's the guy who just effortlessly attracts women, lives this crazy luxury lifestyle, and dominates any room he walks into. He's the hero who never shows weakness. That's the image we're constantly being sold. But here's the thing, right? If a dashing beard and a jacked body are the only qualities of a real man, then what does that make guys like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, or Sir Ratan Tata? I mean, think about it. These guys don't fit that mold at all, yet they have literally shaped the world we live in. And this pressure to fit into that perfect little box, it has a real cost. These beliefs, they run deep. Get this. 74% of men believe they need six-pack abs just to be considered attractive. 58% feel like they have to be emotionally strong all the time. That whole real men don't cry thing. And an absolutely staggering 68% think they have to do every single task themselves without ever asking for help. And if you want to talk about absurd expectations, check this out. This one's wild. A survey actually found that 97% of men believe they could be Batman. Yeah, Batman. It's kind of funny, sure, but it perfectly highlights the completely unrealistic superhero-level standards that this whole alpha culture creates for men. So, all this pressure to basically be a superhero has led to a really strange outcome. Instead of having just one impossible ideal to live up to, society's kind of created this whole set of little limiting boxes to sort every guy into. Oh yeah, you've definitely seen these online. There's the alpha, right? The aggressive leader. Then there's the beta, who gets labeled as weak just for being kind. And you've got everything in between, all the way to the super popular sigma, the lone wolf. We're constantly told that we have to pick one and fit neatly into one of these boxes. And I'm guessing you've probably already tried to figure out which box you fit in. But what if I told you that none of these types actually exist? That all of it, the alpha, the beta, the sigma, the whole shebang, is a complete and total myth. So to really understand why it's all a myth, we have to go back, way back, to the beginning. We need to find out where this whole alpha idea even came from. And as it turns out, it has absolutely nothing to do with humans. It all started with wolves. Okay, so the story goes like this. Back in 1947, a researcher named Rudolf Schenkel was studying wolves in captivity, and he saw this one aggressive male totally dominating the others, so he called him the alpha. Fast forward to 1970, a biologist, David Mech, writes a best-selling book called The Wolf and makes this alpha wolf idea super famous. But, and this is the absolute key, Mech then spent decades studying wolves out in the wild, in their natural habitat, and he discovered his original theory was completely 100% wrong. Wild wolf packs, they're basically just families. They're social, they're cooperative, and they're led by their parents, not some aggressive bully. In fact, for years now, David Mech himself has been actively campaigning to get his own book taken out of publication because he knows the entire alpha premise is flawed. So let that sink in. The entire alpha male concept that has so deeply shaped our culture is based on a scientific mistake, a misinterpretation. It comes from watching stressed out, unrelated wolves who are forced to live together in a tiny cage. It has nothing to do with natural leadership, and it certainly has nothing to do with human beings. It's a myth, period. But here's the dangerous part. Just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's harmless. Not at all. Chasing this fake ideal, wearing this alpha mask, it has a very serious, very real-world cost. And that cost is especially high when we talk about mental health. I mean, this isn't just an opinion. The American Psychological Association has found direct links between trying to follow these traditional masculinity traits, things like being dominant, taking risks, bottling up your emotions, and higher rates of depression, stress, substance use, and a whole list of other really serious psychological problems. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. This is life and death. Globally, men account for a shocking 80% of all suicides. Their suicide rates are 4 times higher than women's. This intense pressure to be a man in this one specific, narrow, outdated way is literally killing people. It's pretty clear we need a new model, a better model.
Okay, so if the old model is so clearly broken, what's the alternative? What do we replace it with? Let's talk about a new, much healthier way to think about masculinity for the 21st century.
It's a concept called positive masculinity, and the idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of a bunch of rigid, old-fashioned rules, it offers a flexible framework that actually fits the world we live in now. The focus shifts away from dominance and control, and instead it's all about emotional health, real human connection, and what it means to have genuine strength.
So how do we actually do this? How do we make it practical? Well, it really comes down to 5 core traits. First up, emotional intelligence. That's about understanding and managing your own emotions and being able to understand others too. Number 2 is connective behavior, basically building healthy, supportive relationships. Third, we have cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt your thinking to new situations. Fourth is humor without harm, using humor to connect with people, not to put them down. And finally, number 5 is genuine self-worth, finding your confidence in who you are authentically, not from some external thing like a fancy car or a big job title.
Now, let's just zero in on that first trait for a second, emotional intelligence, because this one is an absolute game changer. Research actually shows that a massive 80% of our success in life doesn't come from our IQ or raw intelligence. It comes from our EQ, our emotional intelligence. How we manage our emotions, that's what really drives success. And that third trait, cognitive flexibility, it's captured perfectly by that famous Bruce Lee quote, "Be formless, shapeless, like water." Think about it. The old model of masculinity was so rigid. And what happens to things that are rigid? They break under pressure. But being able to adapt, to change your thinking, to flow with the situation, that is true power. Because at the end of the day, a real alpha isn't the person who dominates others. A real alpha is the one who masters himself, his emotions, his actions, his own life. And it all starts by rejecting the fake, broken definitions we've been sold for so long and embracing a much better, healthier way. So the only question left to ask is, are you ready to begin?